going to like this. Go ahead, Theory.
And yet I always seem to second guess. Cause of my skin tone, they saying that I'm just a guest. Plus I was 30, so they started coming at my neck. So many shots been fired, I've been feeling like I need a vest. I'ma show them what I got. And all the ones who said I'd fail, I'll admit my shit is hot. And all the ones who came before me, I'ma see them at the top. Cause I ain't never gonna stop. Now I ain't never gonna stop until I drop.
Welcome to Speak Up, Show Up, Lead, the podcast for people who've been through the hard stuff and kept going. I'm JJ Hardy, Army veteran, leadership coach, and the guy behind the book, Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. Every week, I'll bring you stories and strategies from everyday warriors, resilient leaders, and those rebuilding with purpose. Whether it's a solo message or an unfiltered conversation, you'll walk away with tools, truth, and the fire to keep going. Let's get into it. I'm here today with Dave, and he works at John Deere, but he's a Marine Corps veteran, and we're going to talk about some pretty cool stuff in the AI realm and also some cool stuff that he's doing out in the community. How you doing today, Dave?
Hey, doing wonderful. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, you know, when somebody's doing good things and you see it pop up all the time, you gotta put them out to the masses and let everybody know that things can be done.
I agree.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being a part of that.
Okay.
So, we talked a little bit before I went live today about AI, and you are a recruiter over at John Deere, and you're doing a lot of things with it to help people move forward, specifically veterans move forward in getting jobs, maybe not just necessarily at John Deere or whatever, but these tips are useful for anywhere you work. And I'd love to talk about that if that's something you'd like to. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served 2004 to 2012. I fought in the Korengal Valley of Afghanistan in 06 and then Haditha City, Iraq in 07 with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines. Finished up my time in the Marine Corps in Quantico. Had to have some medical stuff taken care of, and then got a nice medical discharge at the very end, and 90% service connected. And I got into the talent acquisition space 10 years ago. When I got out of the Marine Corps, got into college, found a degree in HR would be the best for me. Graduated summa cum laude, top of my class. And as I've navigated my own career, post the military, I don't like to use the word that I transitioned out of the Marine Corps. You can't take the Marine out of the man once he becomes a Marine. So I'm always a Marine. And since I've become a Marine, it's never going to leave me. So now I'm a Marine and I'm in the corporate world, and I have skills and abilities that the corporate world is now using that I gained when I was in the Marine Corps. And so when we talk about AI and how we can help veterans transition out, when we're not transitioning, when we're leaving the military and going into our corporate jobs, it can be hard to know what is important to put in my resume and how does that fit? How do I fit into an organization? And so here at John Deere, we have what's called the John Deere Military Hiring Program, where we've got a staff of dedicated recruiters that help veterans move into our company. We created as a team a list of prompts that our veterans can use with AI to help them craft bullet points that take all the military jargon out so that you speak the corporate language on your resume, which is that first pass. So when you apply to a position, the first thing that happens is that an AI tool is going to read that resume. It's going to give it a match score. So, I'm sure you've heard people say, tailor your resume to the role. Well, that's what they mean. And once, it gets that first pass and it's given a high match score, then a recruiter is going to see it. And it's important for you to have a good resume strategy, because that recruiter is probably only going to spend around 45 seconds of eyeball time on your resume, to be honest. So you got to be able to maximize that, show them that you have the skills, competencies, and background that's needed for that role for them to want to call you and initiate that first phone screen and then pass you off to a manager to set up that final interview and hopefully, get a job offer and then a start date. So, um, I guess that's my intro.
That is your intro, and it's a very good one.
Yeah.
Well, I personally speaking, beating that applicant tracking system is a beast. I remember when I
Hmm.
transitioned out of the military, well, or however you want to say it, moved
Yeah.
on. I had that life transition going from doing one thing to doing another. How about that?
Yeah.
Um, but once I did that and I started applying for jobs, it certainly was not easy. The one thing that I got very, very used to was that email that said that you know, I've been it said a bunch of different ways, but I was turned down for the position, whether it
Hmm.
was my qualifications or they found another person or whatever the case may be. And I probably got that over 100 times actually. But you know, how could that possibly be with all the stuff that I've done is the question that I was
Hmm.
asking myself. I mean, I did all this stuff where I went to combat just like you. Then I
Hmm.
transitioned out of that when the war was starting to slow down a little bit, and then I
Hmm.
became a warrant officer, and then I went to a bunch of foreign countries doing things in a different capacity and doing planning and training and the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, what what civilian company wouldn't want this? And then I
Right.
finally found a couple key people that taught me. At that time, AI wasn't super prominent, but they taught me
Hmm.
how to change my language so
Right.
that it makes more sense. And they're like, don't tell everybody that you did everything all the time. Focus on the job that you're applying for. I
Hmm.
would love to hear how AI is helping you with that, and
Yeah.
or not you, but how
Sure.
helping people with that, because I think that's an amazing thing. It was very frustrating for me.
Yep. So, a great prompt to use. So, how
Pardon.
this works, how AI can help you. First step would be taking your resume and dropping it into the AI tool that you want to use. And any of the regular chat free AIs can do this. It's an easy lift for them. So you drop your whole resume in. The whatever way it looks like now is perfect. And then you're going to take that job posting that you want to apply to and you grab everything from like the top of the job posting where it talks about the title of the job and where it's located all the way down to the bottom just above like the benefits information, like really down to like where it's like education or the nice things that you could have, like so that it understands the skills that you have to have for that role, and all the requirements, all the responsibilities. So you have those two things now dropped into the AI, and the AI is going to run its analysis every time you put stuff into it. The first prompt you want to give it is, what are gaps in my resume that I need to fill to be a top candidate for this role? When you give the AI that prompt, what it will do is give you a list of things that your resume doesn't emphasize properly to show that you are the top candidate for the role. And so having that gap is very important because now you can target and make bullet points for those gaps and then add them into your resume, covering all the gaps that your resume may have. That way, when it comes into that application tracking system and that company's AI tool reads it, it's going to give you a high match score because your resume matches everything in the job post and probably everything they're looking for in the candidate profile.
Okay. And so while it's doing that analysis, does it also help you with the verbiage? Because I know us military people, we tend to speak in acronyms. So and some of the language that we use is not truly understood
Right, right.
by most
So
civilian employers.
yep. So how at John Deere we help veterans overcome using the right words is the next prompt you'll use. So you'll want to focus on each gap individually. So let's say you're applying to a logistics role, and you could have been a logistics person in the military, and you've got things in your resume that are tied to logistics, but it's not spoken like civilian logistics language. So you can zone in on those gaps and say the the prompt you want to use is write me a bullet point in the star method that covers this gap. And then you paste in after it one of the gaps from that list that you know you have the skill and it's just not on your resume. Now, the STAR method stands for situation, task, action, result. And AI understands what that is. You're basically telling a story about this time in your career on your resume. And that's what you need to think about in your resume. Your resume is a list of stories or situations that you've gone through, and to make your resume more powerful, you want to transform it from, in the military, we have duties and responsibilities. And so typically I see veterans with resumes that are very heavy and a big list, a long list of all the duties and responsibilities I had. What employers want to see is actions, results, and achievements. So your bullet points need to be transformed into the STAR method to show the actions that you took, the results of your actions, and the achievements you had along the way. And you need to limit it to, per job, around 6 to 8 bullet points. Because if you think about it for your resume strategy, that recruiter and that manager is probably going to give your resume around 45 seconds to maybe a minute and a half at the most of eyeball time. And so you got to be able to sell yourself quickly. And so if you have too many bullet points in your resume with too many just duties and responsibilities, there's too much noise for them to look at. And they may put you in the maybe pile or the no pile versus, when they look at your resume and they see all the actions, results, and achievements that you've been able to have, and they're tied to the actual role because that's how the AI is going to help you write those bullet points. You'll get into that final interview stage more often
Okay.
than not.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, there are many different. So the STAR method is one. I
Hmm.
know that there are different organizations that are out there that actually will recommend that you use other methods. I know.
Oh yeah.
I talked to somebody who worked over at Amazon, and they said they have their own unique system that they use to evaluate resumes. And so, does AI help you if there's like a? I know you help with John Deere specifically, but I know
Hmm.
you also do a lot of great things with another type of a community and organization that we'll get to here in a minute.
Sure.
But there are other jobs as well, and so can you ask AI these questions about these organizations and figure out what the best method is to write the resume to tailor for that position as well?
No, I don't think that's a conversation for you and AI. I think where that conversation comes to is, one, you can ask an organization that sets up meetings with veterans and employers. So one that comes to mind is 50 Strong, and not sure if you've heard of Candy Tillman and 50 Strong, but I'm putting a plug out for her because we are John Deere's partnered with them, and we attend their employer events all the time. Um, but um, employers that are looking for veterans, they will typically on their website have a spot where they're trying to recruit veterans for, and you'll be able to click on that spot of their website and then fill out some information so that a recruiter that is like me that's targeted at trying to find veterans for an organization, you can talk to them and say, hey, you know, what do you guys look for in your resumes? Is it the STAR method or is it something else? Um, you know, I think most recruiters will agree with me that if you see actions, results, and achievements in a resume, and a strong skills list, that is probably 95% of what we're looking for in a resume versus very vague bullet points that don't give a whole lot except for a little bit of duty and responsibility. When I'm telling a candidate story to a hiring manager, if I can go through your resume and I can really be able to articulate the things that you've done and the results of those things, it makes it easier for me to explain why I'm advocating for this veteran, to be the top candidate, you know, and you should really benchmark them off of everyone else that's in the list.
Yep. Something comes to mind with this, Dave, and I don't know if you'd be able to speak to it or not, but there are a lot of service members who
Hmm.
graduate high school or graduate college and then go directly into service.
Hmm.
They may not have a huge resume built up. It, so and then they end up going in like the National Guard or Reserve or whatever the case may be, and
Hmm.
those people probably also need help with this sort of stuff. If somebody doesn't have a whole lot of achievements, um, probably isn't an AI question, but what's your advice to those people that are just getting out into the workforce after doing great things in basic training and maybe even college or whatever the case may be to give them to go out into the workforce with when they're creating resumes?
So I call that person early in their career, right?
Yep.
And so they're going to be applying to early career roles where the requirements aren't as heavy as someone maybe in mid-career or late career. And so my best advice for those people that are maybe, maybe it's a reserve, spot or something like that where their day job isn't anything in the military. They're still going to be able to set themselves apart because they joined service and they've been through something that everyone else in that candidate pool isn't or hasn't gone through. To put it to perspective, here at John Deere and a lot of other places, um, uh, the veteran pipeline is literally 1%. Like I could have 200 roles posted, and out of those 200 roles, I will only get two or three veterans that maybe apply, you know.
Mm.
And we are doing strives to make that more, raise up our the amount of veterans that apply per position. Um, I may have one veteran that I work with, and I say it's one veteran applying. That veteran may apply to four or five different roles. So, you can look at the data different ways, but I go by the name of the veteran, like that veteran that I've attracted to John Deere that, you know, they understand our mission here. It's to feed the planet, and a lot of other things. And they want to work here. So I guess the best way to put it, when filling out your resume, there are things you did before you went into the military, and there are things that you accomplished while you were in that training phase, that do look really good on your resume. And all you would have to do with the AI tool is really have the conversation to explain the different courses you went through. And I know, like through the Marine Corps, we had our website where it listed out all the things that you had done and the ribbons that you had and things. So there's a way to at least have a 1 page to a 1.5 page resume pretty easily if you use AI.
So those are significant things, right? So
Hmm.
maybe some of the leadership qualities that you learned while you were in training, maybe some of the medals that you learned or earned, or some people maybe just got the National Defense Medal or something, and but
Right.
maybe some people got maybe they got a class accomplishment where they might have been
Hmm.
what is that merit I can't remember the name of the that
Meritoriously promoted. Yeah.
meritoriously promoted, or
Hmm.
maybe they had high honors for their standing in the class and basic training and AIT. I mean there are so many things to consider when it's not just training. If you stand out in any way, they should be taking that into consideration. So
Right.
that's something. But now tell you do a lot more than just help out John Deere. You're part of something that's been going on since what 2018 now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is a really significant thing, and I wish more locations were doing something just like it. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so here in the Quad Cities, we have what's called the Quad Cities Veterans Network. And what we are is, back in 2018, one of my best friends, Brian Miller, Colonel or Lieutenant Colonel for the Army, he was retiring. I had gotten out in 2012, and I was, in my career in recruiting at this point, and things were going well. Um, and Brian needed to find a job, and we had heard about other networks like the one we have now. QCVN is what we call it. We had Roll Call Chicagoland in Chicago. We had Vetlanta, and others. And we were like, man, isn't there a network here? And we couldn't find one. So he and I and about 7 or 8 other veterans said, hey, let's make it ourselves. And we started off at the local base that we have here in the Quad Cities, the Rock Island Arsenal. And pretty quickly, we were noticed by a fantastic gentleman out at Roll Call Chicagoland, Justin Miller. And Justin said, you guys got to get off base. What the QCVN does is we bring the veteran job seeker into the same place that the employers are, and it's a very casual, low-key networking event. Each month, we have an employer that sponsors the event, and so they typically buy all the food, and so you get free food, and you get to have these, you know, low-threat conversations with employers that are trying to find a way to get you into their organization. We also have resource groups that come, people that are in the service dog industry. They want to help veterans get connected to a service dog and use that service. We have people from the VA that can help you, get your VA claims submitted again. There's people from the local. Here we have Iowa Works, where they can help you connect with employers, work on your resume, and the list goes on. So we grew from about 8 or 9 people that were coming veterans every single month to now our events. On average, we have around 60 to 100 people attend. So it's really grown. And then on top of that, we've also expanded across the state of Iowa. We now have the Muscatine Veterans Network. We have the Clinton County Veterans Network just north of us. North of them, we have the Tri-States Veteran Network out in Dubuque. Above them, we have the Cedar Valley Veterans Network in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then out in Des Moines, Iowa, we have the River Valley Veterans Network. All of these networks have been created because somebody from those areas came to the Quad Cities, they heard about our network, and they said, I want to have this here. We gave them the blueprints of how easy it is to make your own network, and now they're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been to the Cedar Valley numerous times. I'm
Hmm.
planning on going next week, actually,
Nice.
and then also I've a handful of times I've been up to the Quad Cities Veteran networking events as well.
Hmm.
I've seen you there a couple times. We have not connected there, but I'm so happy that we connected on
Yeah,
LinkedIn and we were able to do this here.
totally.
Um, I always ask people this on my shows for anybody who's maybe down and out struggling in that transition phase. What's one
Mhm.
piece of advice that you have to them, whether it's for job seekers or just overall advice that you could pass on as your infinite wisdom?
So, your network is your net worth, is what we say at the Quad City Veterans Network. So, building your network, connecting with recruiters that work at big companies like mine, John Deere, are a great place to start because when you connect with me, if I don't have a role that's going to fit you, then I'm going to get you connected with the folks over at 50 Strong, who are then going to get you with a ton of other employers that are going to give you more leads to jobs. Um, you know, if you just Google like whatever function that you're trying to get into, let's say it's IT, you could Google the top IT companies in your area. And then from there, go to their websites, like that'll give you, or you can even ask your AI for that too. The AI can sometimes do a better search now. And you go to their websites, every single big company is going to have a veteran spot, or most of them will. And then you fill out that contact card so you can get in touch with the recruiter, or it'll show you the jobs that they have there that, have been successful for veterans or however they work their talent acquisition strategy. But, um, you know, what I'm talking about here is proactive. Action won't happen unless you take it. That's just how it works. So, if there's a veterans network in your area, attend those monthly events, even if you're actively employed, because the stronger you have the stronger network that you build and that you have, it's going to be there when you need a job. Case in
Mhm.
point, I've only been with John Deere for 3 years. The company before that, I'd been there for 6 years. Amazing company, H&I Corporation, very veteran friendly. Started off because three gentlemen were sitting around a table in Muscatine at the end of World War II, and they said, "Hey, the war's ending. Veterans are going to be coming back to Muscatine, Iowa, and we need to have a place for them to go to work." And so those three guys started what is now H&I Corporation. It started off as Han Company. They make office furniture, and that message really appealed to me when I was earlier in my, as I was moving from the military into my civilian career. And I said, I want to join a company like that and recruit for a company that's been focused on veterans since 1944. And, through that, saw what John Deere was doing to hire veterans and, got recruited to come work here. So, um, just my best advice is connect with people like me. I connect with everybody on LinkedIn. That's how I got it with you, JJ, and then through the Quad City Veterans Network.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were just I was doing a show with Derek, and you were
Hmm.
participating that day, and we
Yeah,
we connected afterwards, and one thing led to another. And I mean, that's how opportunities happen, right? You put yourself out
totally.
there, and they either come to you, or at least at a minimum conversations start to happen. So
Right,
um it's a great thing, and I like that advice. There's definitely no progress without action. And so if you don't take, if even if it's the wrong action, if you just start off doing something,
right.
you're going to get somewhere. And then you'll learn over time, and you'll
Hmm.
eventually be able to pivot into what you know is working because you see somebody else that's doing something that's been working for them. So
Right.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Action is super important. So thank
Yeah,
you
no,
for.
that's and not to cut you off, but that's such a great point. I learned so much more from my failures than I do from my wins. So I will fail fast to get to that win, you know. You gotta do it.
When I became a warrant officer, I worked in logistics. I was a mobility warrant officer,
Hmm.
and I had to mentor a lot of lieutenants. And they would always come up to me and say, "Chief, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I think my chain of command knows that." And I would look at them and say, "Sir, you're not supposed to.
Hmm.
Go out there, do your best, screw it up, and get in their good graces because you're out there trying."
Right, right. I mean, that's totally so, I'm sure you've heard of Skill Bridge program, you
Yep.
know, and we have a great Skill Bridge training program here, you know. Not every veteran gets hired from a Skill Bridge program. I know that's the intent, but sometimes there just isn't the right role for them at the end of it, and they take the awesome experience that we're able to give them, but majority of them do find their role. But it gives them that low threat environment where they can learn and make mistakes, and
Mhm.
we're right there with them every step of the way so that, the mistakes they make don't hurt the business a whole lot. But, you know, um, you gotta give yourself those opportunities. So now skill bridge is only for those that are on active duty within the last 6 months of their service. And most commands only let you do a 3 month skill bridge, because that's typically before you go on terminal leave and such. But
Yep.
you gotta take the time to take advantage of all the opportunities that you can and be willing to let yourself fail along the way.
Yeah, that military wheel is gonna keep on turning even if you're not in the seat. So you have
Hmm.
to step away from the job and take care of yourself after you transition, so that it's not so difficult. And one way to do that is through Skill Bridge, because you're out there working with another company, and
Hmm.
it's an opportunity that not everybody takes advantage of. Unless you have another path, you might as well give it a shot. That's such a good idea.
Hmm.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for being a guest. Um, I I'm glad we were able to make this work. I know it was a little bit rocky getting started today, but we were
Yeah.
here, and we did the half hour, and so um, I'm glad we did it. I think you shared some amazing things, and so I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, no, and anybody watching now, or maybe if there's a recording, If you'd like to get, more tips with me on how to make enhancement to your resume with AI, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll help you out.
And so that is Dave Underwood, and it's
Hmm.
spelled just as such, just like it sounds on LinkedIn, and you should be able to get a hold of him. Before we completely end the episode, I have to talk about my book, Speak Up, Show Up, Lead, a veteran story of grit, growth, and leadership from the ground up. This is actually my story, and I wrote it not to talk about all the craziness that's gone on in my life before, during, and after the military, but to talk about what I've learned and to let people know that no matter what environment you come from, no matter how down you are,
Hmm.
you can get yourself back up to the top. So if you're interested, go to Amazon.com. It's published there, and grab yourself a copy. And again, Dave, thank you again for being a guest. And for everybody who's listening, we will see you all next time.
All right. See ya. Semper Fi.